A man in a grey suit steps off a bus near the Finnish border. He checks his watch. He has exactly 90 seconds before a KGB surveillance team rounds the next corner. But here's what makes this insane. This man is the KGB. He's Colonel Oleg Gordievsky, a senior officer inside the KGB's most secretive directorate. And for the last 11 years, every classified document that crossed his desk has been photographed, memorized, or whispered to a handler from MI6. How did a KGB colonel pass secrets to the British for over a decade without a single colleague suspecting him? And who finally betrayed him? Oleg Gordievsky is 28, freshly recruited into the KGB's first chief directorate, the branch responsible for all foreign intelligence operations. On paper, he's the model Soviet officer, loyal, sharp, ideologically committed. His father was KGB, his older brother was KGB. The Gordievsky family bleeds Soviet red. But Oleg has a secret no loyalty oath can contain. In August 1968, he watches Soviet tanks roll into Prague to crush the Czech democratic movement. That moment cracks something inside him. He doesn't run. He does something far more dangerous. He decides to stay inside the system and destroy it from within. By 1973, the KGB stations Gordievsky in Copenhagen as a political intelligence officer. It is here, in a quiet Danish cafe, that MI6 makes contact. The British intelligence service has been watching him for months. They've noticed the small things, the way he lingers near Western bookshops, the subtle disgust when he parrots the party line. Gordievsky agrees to work for British intelligence. No money changes hands. He doesn't want payment, he wants the Soviet system to fall. MI6 assigns him the codename Sunbeam. And for the next 11 years, Sunbeam will become the most valuable intelligence asset in the Western world. Step 1. The information pipeline. Gordievsky can't photograph documents. The KGB sweeps officers' apartments regularly. Instead, he memorizes them. Entire intelligence briefings, agent names, operational plans. He meets his MI6 handlers in carefully choreographed encounters. A park bench in Tivoli Gardens, a back room of a second-hand bookshop. The intelligence he delivers is staggering. He reveals the names of KGB officers operating under diplomatic cover across Western Europe. He exposes Soviet disinformation campaigns designed to fracture NATO. He passes along the KGB's assessment of Western military capabilities, the actual classified analysis, not the propaganda version. But his most critical intelligence comes in 1981. Gordievsky reports something that terrifies MI6 and eventually reaches the desk of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The Soviet leadership genuinely believes the United States is planning a nuclear first strike. It's not posturing, it's not bluffing. The old men in the Kremlin are preparing to launch their missiles first, before America can. This intelligence, codenamed Operation Ryan, becomes one of the most consequential secrets of the Cold War. Thatcher passes it to President Reagan. Reagan is stunned. He had no idea the Soviets took his tough rhetoric so literally. This single piece of intelligence, smuggled out by one man, helps de-escalate the most dangerous nuclear standoff since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Gordievsky wasn't stealing technology or selling secrets for money. He was reshaping geopolitics from inside a filing cabinet. If you're following how one man's memory was literally preventing nuclear war, hit that subscribe button, because what the KGB does next is what makes this story legendary. In 1982, the KGB recalls Gordievsky to Moscow and promotes him. He's now working inside KGB headquarters, the most surveilled building in the Soviet Union. Every phone is tapped, every hallway has eyes, and Gordievsky keeps spying. His MI6 handlers develop an emergency extraction plan, codenamed Operation Pimlico. It involves a specific signal, Gordievsky standing on a particular street corner at a particular time, holding a Safeway grocery bag and a British diplomatic car with a hidden compartment in the trunk. They pray they'll never have to use it. The KGB posts Gordievsky to London as the resident, the station chief of KGB operations in the entire United Kingdom. It's the highest position a Soviet intelligence officer can hold on foreign soil. MI6 now has their man running the KGB's London operation. It's the greatest intelligence coup of the Cold War. But 4,500 miles away in Washington, D.C., a CIA officer named Aldrich Ames walks into the Soviet embassy and sells the names of every Soviet citizen working for Western intelligence. The price? $50,000 in cash and a promise of more. May 1985, Moscow. The KGB summons Gordievsky back from London. They say it's for consultations, but when he lands at Sheremetyevo Airport, something is wrong. His colleagues avoid eye contact. His security clearance has been downgraded. On May 28th, the KGB invites him to a dacha outside Moscow. They pour him brandy, laced with a truth serum compound. For hours, KGB interrogators press him. Gordievsky's training holds. He gives them nothing. But he knows. They know. And now, it's a waiting game. For the next 7 weeks, Gordievsky lives in a waking nightmare. He's under constant surveillance. 2 KGB watchers follow him everywhere, to the grocery store, to the park, even to his apartment building lobby. His phone clicks with listening devices. He can feel the net closing. But here's what the KGB missed. They assumed Gordievsky would try to reach a Western embassy. They assumed he'd make a phone call. They assumed he'd behave like every other caught spy in Soviet history. What they didn't account for was that MI6 had spent 3 years planning for this exact moment. Gordievsky goes for his morning jog, a routine his KGB watchers have grown bored observing, but today he jogs a different route. He cuts through a park, drops behind a building, and for 90 precious seconds, he's invisible. He boards a city bus, then a train, then another bus. Each transfer planned to the minute by MI6 to exploit the gaps in KGB surveillance shift changes. At 11 a.m. Gordievsky stands on a designated street corner near the Kutuzovsky Prospect. He's holding a Safeway bag and eating a Mars bar. This is the Pimlico signal. Across the street, a British diplomat's wife, carrying a baby on her hip, spots the signal. She nods. The next morning, a grey Ford sedan from the British embassy rolls up to Gordievsky at a pre-arranged pickup point on the outskirts of Moscow. He climbs into the trunk. He lies flat, pressed against the spare tire, sit in the front seats with their wives and children, a family on a camping trip to Finland. At the Soviet-Finnish border, a KGB guard orders the car to stop. He walks around the vehicle. Sniffer dogs are brought forward. One dog approaches the trunk and begins barking. Gordievsky, curled in the dark, grips his cyanide capsule. The MI6 officer's wife opens a bag of crisps and nappies, and one of the children begins crying. The guard waves the car through. Oleg Gordievsky, the KGB colonel who spied for Britain for 11 years, is free. The fallout is devastating. The KGB is humiliated. A colonel, one of their own, a man they promoted, trusted, and stationed in London, had been a British agent since before some of his interrogators joined the service. Gordievsky is sentenced to death in absentia by a Soviet military tribunal. His wife Layla and their 2 young daughters are held hostage in Moscow for 6 years. The KGB won't let them leave. They become bargaining chips in a diplomatic standoff that drags on until 1991, when the Soviet Union collapses and they're finally allowed to join Gordievsky in England. But here's what nobody expected. The man who betrayed Gordievsky, CIA officer Aldrich Ames, wouldn't be caught for another 9 years. For 9 years, Ames continued selling secrets from inside CIA headquarters, earning over $4.6 million from the KGB. He compromised at least 25 Western agents. At least 10 were executed. Ames was finally arrested in February 1994 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The intelligence community would later conclude that Gordievsky's intelligence about Operation Ryan, the Soviet fear of a first strike, may have been the single most important piece of intelligence in the final third decade of the Cold War. It changed Reagan's approach to the Soviet Union, contributed to the thawing of relations, and helped end the Cold War without a nuclear exchange. Today, Oleg Gordievsky lives quietly in the English countryside, under a new identity. He's 87 years old. He was awarded the Companion of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, one of Britain's highest honours, in a secret ceremony. The citation has never been published. He never asked for money. He never wanted fame. He wanted the system that crushed Prague, that imprisoned millions, that aimed 45,000 nuclear warheads at the free world to fall. And it did.